Another film you have here at the festival, Listen to Me Marlon, which is fantastic. About Marlon Brando, sort of anchored by his audio tapes that he had recorded, sort of like a diary. This was another filmmaker you've worked with a couple of times, is that right, Stephen? So how did this idea come around? How did you guys come up with that kind of idea?
Well, that film came to me because I got a phone call from a guy called Austin Wilkin, who I'd worked with on a film called We Live in Public, who had moved to work for the Brando estate. And they'd been flirting with the idea of making a documentary, and for one reason or another, it hadn't happened. And he rang me and said, you know, would you be interested in coming in and talking to the guys who run the estate about making a film about Marlon Brando? And I was, as I said earlier, I was like, yes, absolutely, immediately, for sure. And I can't remember if he told me on this call, but pretty rapidly they told me that there was this archive. They had this archive of tons of his stuff, which included audio tapes that he'd recorded across the course of his life. Hundreds of hours of them. And I suppose, you know, as soon as I said, yes, I want to make this film, I immediately also thought, I know that if we're going to do this, I don't want to do a conventional, I don't want to interview Johnny Depp and Sean Penn and Jack Nicholson. I don't want to make a conventional film because I'm sure it must have been done. And the truth is, I mean, I haven't seen them all, obviously, but more often than not, films with those sorts of people in them, it's hard for them to say anything that is going to surprise you or that might be controversial. And I felt like if we were going to do this, wouldn't it be exciting to try and do something original and bold and ambitious? And especially as Stephen and I had made Fire in Babylon and we made Everything or Nothing, which were films I'm really fond of, but they've been quite classical in the sort of talking head archive, music, clip, scenario. Yeah, although he'd done an amazing job on both those films. And so very quickly this idea of, could we possibly do this film and have Marlon tell his own life story and have no one in it at all? I mean, that just immediately, I thought, wow, that would be so cool. That'd be really exciting.
And there's also one other element. I saw this film a couple months ago, so I'm trying to remember it, but there's like a CG Marlon Brando in it, yeah, right? Yeah. How would you describe it better than I just did?
Well, one of the things we discovered as we got into our research and we looked through all the archive, all the estate, passed all the stuff on to us, that at a certain point in the early 90s, Marlon had his head scanned into a computer because they were planning to do some sort of animation with him, and he was really excited about it. And in the audio tapes, he talks about how excited he is about that prospect. And Passion Pictures, which is run by my business partner, is predominantly an animation company and a very successful animation company. In fact, Andrew Ruman, is an Academy Award winner for his own animated short film, which he directed 3 years ago called The Lost Thing. Stephen had the idea of taking these scans and maybe seeing if Passion could actually do what Marlon had hoped was going to be done, which was to create his head in the computer as a CG Marlon. And also that maybe we could use this in some way to reflect on the story as it's being told by Marlon, so that he starts with the head actually not very well formed at all, and it gets closer to being fully formed by the end of the film, although never photoreal. And I just love that idea as well, because I thought, and whenever I look at it, I just think to myself, rarely out loud, but I'm going to do it out loud now, which is, what documentary would ever do this? I mean, it's only because Passion could subsidize it that we could do it, because it cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we built his head in the computer, and there he is. He's talking to you. It's nuts. It really is. And I mean, it freaks some people out. In fact, yes, it freaks some people. Some people think it's a bit creepy. But it's actually, for a doc maker, it's like, I just feel really proud of the fact that we were able to do that.